So we're joined today by David Nava, and David is someone that I noticed on LinkedIn that recently passed his administrator certification. And there was a lot that I noticed about his post on LinkedIn. One was just the level of engagement from others, and then as well, I think David has a lot of humility that comes through as well, as far as just thanking a lot of individuals and organizations. And David, can you share with us first where you're joining us from today? And I think my first question beyond that would be how you first discovered Salesforce.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm active duty military. I've got about 6-7 months left until I retire from the service. And currently I'm at the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, where I'm in the wargaming department and I'm military faculty. And so I've been preparing for my transition for about 5 years now, but it's taken different pathways based upon the experiences that I've been exposed to. And so initially it was to get my MBA and to get my project management professional certification, because at the time I wanted to go into project management. Along those lines, I got my Lean Six Sigma black belt and was fully committed to entering a project management job. But when recruiters started to ask me, what industry do you want to be a part of, and how do you want to apply those project management skills, I really didn't have an answer. I didn't know. I just wanted to be a project manager because I didn't have a full concept for really what that meant in the civilian world. So, in response to their questions, I began to look more deeply into the career industry that I wanted to be a part of, and decided that tech was pretty interesting. And as I spent more and more time on LinkedIn, I heard about VetForce. And this was about 4.5 months ago in May. And I didn't really know what VetForce was. I had never heard of Salesforce, but I'm the guy that always takes advantage of free programs for veterans and for military, which has been phenomenal in the past few years. There's really been an opening up of private industries as well as nonprofits who help support veteran transitions and making a lot of resources available to them. So, I've taken advantage of hiring heroes, American corporate partners, and a variety of other ones to include, Forblock. And so I figured I'd look into this VetForce. Now I'm a process-oriented person. I love creating and updating processes. I like displaying information and designing layouts. And so when I jumped into Trailhead, I quickly found out that this kind of met all of my needs for a job. It allowed me to, organize and create processes, but also it provided the opportunity to manage projects. And so the more I got into Trailhead, the more I became addicted to it. And before I knew it, I had, over 300 badges. And I had decided that I wanted to do this full time when I got out. And so then I began to look into other resources to try to figure out the best way to approach a Salesforce career.
Okay, awesome. So your first entry point into Salesforce or discovery was through VetForce. And VetForce is a program that I'm really fond of. I'm not a veteran. I don't have any military background, but it is something that I've identified as a great program as far as reaching out to veterans and giving them great skills to transition into the civilian life. And it sounds like that you really got hooked. And then from there, as far as from VetForce into Trailhead in order to learn the platform. And that reminded me, you mentioned you have over 300 badges. That was another thing that caught my eye on your LinkedIn post that you shared, because you were sharing the news that you had passed the administrator certification, and you also have reached Ranger status 3 times over. Like 100 badges is one of the things, as far as reaching Ranger. You're one of those individuals that has over 300 badges. So that really impressed me as well. That tells me that this is someone that is going all in with this and has spent a considerable amount of time on the platform. And so what is it about Trailhead that you liked? Like, what really connected with you?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I like gamification. So Trailhead does a very good job of making it into a game. You earn points, you complete challenges, there's projects that you can do, but also there's badges that you earn. So you complete a module or a series of modules and you earn a badge. Being in the military, I'm kind of fond of badges and medals and whatnot. So this appealed kind of innately to me. And I also like to collect. So I quickly began collecting badges. But what I also noticed about the Salesforce community is that if you really want to make a name for yourself and get hired, it takes several things. In my personal opinion, it takes 3 things. One, it helps. You don't have to be certified, but it definitely helps to be certified. I know there's lots of Salesforce professionals that don't have a certification and they do just fine. But for me, coming out of the military and making a complete pivot to a new career, I knew that the certification was something that I would want to add to my profile. So certification's one. Two, you have to have experience. That's really the crucial factor. You can have a certification, but if you don't have experience, some employers will be a little leery of hiring you. So I knew that I wanted to get as much experience as I possibly could with the platform in a professional role, as well as having a certification. And then finally, you really have to get out there and make a name for yourself in social media. So I think someone said that Twitter is the language of Salesforce, and I had not had a Twitter account prior to getting interested in Salesforce. I had a LinkedIn account, but I really began to kind of announce my milestones and my successes via LinkedIn, and I noticed a huge response. So every time I would earn 100 badges, I would make a LinkedIn post, and as I had more and more of those posts, 100 badges, 200, 300, I noticed that the response increased. And so that's part of what kept me going, is to try to get as many badges as quickly as I could, because I knew there was an interest factor there in the social media space. And I noticed that other folks have also made a name for themselves doing that as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah. And the level of engagement on your post blew me away. I was like, wow, this guy, he's getting a lot of traction on the social media front, and doing it on LinkedIn is really smart as well, because that's where recruiters live. And so can you tell me a little bit about, are you starting to get a lot of calls from recruiters? I know you're currently in a position, and so I don't know how comfortable you are with talking about recruiter interest or as far as job possibilities. And it sounds like you still have a few more months in the military, but are you starting to get some inquiries from recruiters?
So yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I had, through my LinkedIn connections, I had gotten a nonprofit intern position with a veteran-focused nonprofit, and was able to donate 20 to 30 hours per week. And I've been doing that for 3 or 4 months now, and that was huge. Not only for recruiters to see that I was gaining practical experience in the platform, but also from a certification standpoint, very helpful in helping me prepare for the exam. Once I posted my certification results, that's kind of when the recruiter started knocking on the door. And even though it was only last week, I've had several offers, and I've accepted a couple to do Salesforce projects. So not full-time stuff, although there have been full-time offers as well as part-time. The current amount of time I have right now won't allow for it, but I have accepted some project part-time roles. And so that has been huge for advancing my future career, has been that post and getting certified.
Right. Well, that's awesome. So you've been able to negotiate some part-time project work then, it sounds like. And so that's kind of the holy grail for a lot of people, is they're looking for work that's part-time or fits around their life schedule. And it sounds like you've succeeded in doing that. So congratulations on that as well, not only passing the exam, but handling yourself well through the process of interviewing and all that goes into that as well. Is that work that you've landed or accepted the offers for, is that remote or is that on site, or what's the dynamic of that?
Sure. Yeah, it's 100% remote. So I was very excited because they were just transitioning to Lightning, and I caught them right before they transitioned. And they had some consultant, pro bono consultant who had volunteered to help them. So I got to work directly with him and transition the company to Lightning completely remotely. So it was a lot of work in the org. It was a lot of virtual meetings using Zoom or another web meeting format, and then it's been a lot of phone calls. And I'm continuing to facilitate the transition by doing weekly training sessions, where I'll develop a training presentation that I'll present it using a video chat feature. And that's been rewarding for my users, but also for me as a learning tool, because the more questions I get asked, the more I learn.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing like teaching others in order to learn a lot.
Right.
That's when I started really learning. Salesforce is going out there and trying to teach others. That really unearthed some things that I didn't understand as well as I thought I did. So what is next for you? Like, what's the next step in your journey? Like, what's your immediate and kind of short-term goals?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier that I started 5 years ago, and that was because I'm a single dad, and so I can't afford there to be a gap in employment. And so another reason why I decided to take on some some pro bono and some paid roles during my active duty military time and before I transitioned is for that reason. So I'm working 60 to 70 hours a week in the mornings, during the afternoon, obviously when I'm at work, sometimes in the evenings and all weekend. So it's challenging now, but it's going to pay off in the end. I also don't believe in putting all my eggs in one basket.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm extremely excited and interested in Salesforce, I've developed another job pathway. It's becoming more and more popular, but initially a lot of folks didn't know about it. It's called the DoD Skill Bridge program.
Okay.
And it is, it's for anyone who is close to either separating or retiring, and it provides a 3 to 6 month internship with a company while you're still on active duty. And so there's a couple different organizations that offer it. Shift does, Breakline does, and there's different career industries that you can go into based upon who you align yourself with. The one that I align myself with is a DoD-approved company called Shift. And they have numerous partners spread out across the United States. And so in April, I'll go on my terminal leave where I don't have to physically show up to military work anymore. I'm still technically being paid by the military, but I've accrued all that leave, and I will start my internship with a company that I'll find out about here in the next few months. I haven't started interviewing yet. And so when I complete that internship in the July timeframe and I'm formally retired from the military, I then have a choice, either between pursuing a Salesforce career or between taking on that internship as a full-time role.
Awesome. Well, you got a lot of options. That's great. So it's great to see just what you're doing, and I think you're inspiring a lot of people. And I think that you are definitely going to be making a name for yourself. And I think that Salesforce has been wise to reach out to the veteran community and just military in general, because those that have served, a lot of them are process driven, have dealt with stressful situations. And so to be tasked with building something on the Salesforce platform, it's not so stressful compared to, what you had to deal with, And so I think you provide a lot of perspective to those that may either be younger or more sheltered, And I'm just so glad to see Salesforce doing programs like VetForce, and then as well, just seeing how that led to Trailhead. And then at some point you discovered my courses, because I was mentioned in your shout out, and I appreciate you including me in that list of people that played some sort of role in your success. And I always celebrate students' success, and glad to see that. And so how did you discover my courses?
Yeah, so Mike Wheeler Media has played a huge role in my certification success. I was always kind of aware of it. Your name is kind of a buzzword in the Salesforce community for folks that are interested in certifying. So I had bookmarked the course, but I hadn't gotten around to taking it yet because I was still going through Trailhead and really trying to figure out what my process was going to be for certification. And the more I looked into how to certify, the more I realized there's no succinct pathway. Everyone does it a different way. And there's tons of different resources out there. And from a newbie, you don't really know what are the good resources, what are the resources that maybe aren't so good. So what I'd done was a while back, I'd put a LinkedIn post together to basically ask the Salesforce community what their preferred form for study was for the admin certification. And the intent was not only to help me, but also for the other folks out there who are interested in getting certified. I figured they would also read the post. And since having posted that post, I've forwarded it to numerous individuals. What I did was I mentioned Salesforce, and I included some individuals in the post. Because I've taken the time to connect with Salesforce MVPs and a lot of people in the Salesforce community, I had a huge response. I think there was over 100 comments that were added to the post, providing lots of different resources. And so as I read through the posts, I kind of compiled them into another post that I added on to that message with my preferred pathway. And Mike Wheeler Media was a big part of that because I noticed that a lot of folks had recommended your course. And so I'd gone back to my Udemy link. I'd looked you up, and I noticed that not only did you have a 11-hour certification course, but you also had a test bank. And having prepared for other tests unrelated to Salesforce, I knew that my learning style is very much geared toward test banks and taking tests over and over again. And so I'd taken your 11-hour course, found it extremely helpful. I'd gone through your test banks. As you know, Salesforce tests are unique. And they're looking for they're not looking for, can you memorize the information? They're looking for, are you comfortable inserting yourself into the platform? And actually, when you're answering our questions, can you think your way through the process and how it would actually be done? Not did you memorize a list of information. And so both your course and your test banks kind of put you in that test-taking mind frame to where you're able to do that. And so that was very helpful.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you found those helpful. I'll have to go track down your old posts about where you were asking the crowd. How long ago was that? I mean, this has been a relatively quick journey for you. You've been condensing down into a lot of hours, because I know you spent a lot of hours studying, but this has been pretty quick time frame. How long has this been for you?
Yeah, so from start to finish, from learning about Salesforce to taking the test was a little over 4.5 months. And so I wrote that post about a month and a half ago. Yeah, so that post was very helpful. And part of my training was to go through a 1-week course provided by the Marivis Foundation. And so after getting out of that course, I mentioned the post that I had created and all the great comments I'd gotten from Salesforce MVPs and other folks in the community. And I've since forwarded that post to members from my class. And really anyone who contacts me and says, hey, I noticed you got certified. Do you have any recommendations for studying? I'm like, aha, I do. Let me forward you this post.
Right. Yeah. And that's a helpful resource to have then. That way you're not repeating yourself. That's
Right.
kind of what led me to even create the admin certification course, was because I was really guilty of several years ago. Anyone that had a pulse and came into my path, I would be like, you need to learn Salesforce, because it was changing my career path, and then I found that I was having the same conversation over and over. And so then thus was born the course as well. I have heard the name Marivis Foundation come up in several circles. Can you tell me a little bit more about them? Because I don't know much about Marivis, but I'd like to learn.
Sure. Yeah. The Marivis Foundation was formed by Hector and Kate Perez and Joe Castro. And it is basically a veteran-focused nonprofit that provides free Salesforce training to vets, military member spouses, and veteran spouses. And what they've done is they've aligned themselves with vetforce such that the course that they give is approved by Salesforce and counts towards the vetforce community's pathway towards certification. And they operate out of Austin. They're looking to expand their program, but they provide that 1-week course with phenomenal instructors that are Salesforce certified to help veterans transition to a career in Salesforce. And so I took that a couple of weeks ago, also made a huge difference to kind of really cement my knowledge, as well as not only do they provide you with training, but they also provide you with professional development in the Salesforce career arena. And then they provide you with connections, and they try to help you get employed. So, it's a phenomenal resource for any military member, veteran, or spouse that's looking to get into a Salesforce career.
Awesome. So for other veterans that are looking to transition, you would recommend, it sounds like, the Marivis Foundation and, of course, VetForce as well. So whatever form this takes, as far as when it's distributed, I can provide those links to others so that they can check out those resources. Are there any other things that you would like to mention or promote, even if it's like your own LinkedIn profile or Twitter handle, or do you have a website or anything, or is it?
I don't have a website just yet. I'm looking to develop one. It's on my list of projects, which is growing.
Yeah.
But as far as other resources, like one of the great things about being a vet today is the huge list of resources that you have at your disposal to help you with transition. My dad, coming out of Vietnam and serving through the 90s, didn't have that, but we certainly have it today. And it's a great opportunity for veterans to take advantage of. So some of the things that I've done is American Corporate Partners, which provides a 1-year mentorship opportunity for with an individual in your desired career pathway. So that's great. Hiring Heroes and Hire for Heroes are two separate organizations that you can Google, and both provide employment-related resources for veterans. Syracuse University offers a free certification program. They have a grant with JP Morgan Chase. And so if you look up, certification program, Syracuse University, they will provide free training and will pay for one certification. So that's what I use to get my project management professional or PMP certification. Mm-hmm. 4Block is a great organization. They are a veteran-focused nonprofit that provides a 10-week course syllabus, as well as 1 week networking opportunities with some of the biggest names in that local area. So they have cohorts spread all across the U.S. I took advantage of their Boston cohort and got to do networking opportunities, with Goldman Sachs, with Wayfair, with the Kraft Group, a lot of great companies in my local area, and they do that in LA and Boston and Atlanta and New York City, all across the U.S. So that's 4Block. And then, the Marist Foundation, which is Salesforce focused, is another great organization that provides that free training resource. So I've taken advantage of all these, but I would encourage veterans just to look up veteran resources and look up DoD SkillBridge program. Even if you don't want to go into tech, there are other career industries that the DoD SkillBridge program can put you into internships with. And so the last thing I would say is look up Michael Quinn on LinkedIn. He's a kind of a veteran employment guru. And if you go into LinkedIn and you follow his posts, he provides a lot of great content on how to make that transition process. But I would say if you're looking to transition, you have to be on LinkedIn. Twitter is also good, but LinkedIn is an absolute must. Develop a profile, make sure it's a professional picture. There's lots of useful guides to how to create a profile. Mike Quinn offers one. Dan Savage from LinkedIn offers one as well. And then really you want to post. It's great to have a profile, but unless you're posting relevant content, you're not really going to get as noticed as much. Also, join as many LinkedIn groups as you can related to the specific career field that you want to be in, and then reach out and start making those connections. So one of the things that I do every day is I connect with at least 20 people in the Salesforce career space, because when I connect with them, their feed gets pulled into my feed, and that automatically makes me aware of opportunities I would never have been aware of. And I found out about VetForce through LinkedIn. So it literally changed my life, and that's not an exaggeration. I would never have heard about it had I not connected with that one person who was also in the VetForce space and who I happened to send a connection request to, and that their comments got pulled into my feed. So,
got it. Great recommendations. So, David, best of luck to you. I'm so inspired. I can't wait to just share your story with others and just keep doing what you're doing. And just let me know how I can help. And just so excited for your future and excited to just learn about all these resources that are out there for veterans. And so now I'm going to be out there telling veterans, like, you got to learn Salesforce, and check out this resource of great advice, and even beyond Salesforce. And I am a big believer too of not having your eggs all in one basket. And I think that you're a great example of someone that's really skilling up in a lot of different areas, networking, using social media, and just really killing it. So you probably should think about doing a course geared towards veterans to share all this knowledge, and I just really enjoy just listening to you, so I think that you could definitely succeed in that arena as well. Yet another option for you. So a lot of options. Is a good place to be and a good problem to have. So best of luck to you, sir, and thank you so much for your service and for sharing your time with me today as well.
Yeah, thanks very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, and I will be back to look at more Mike Wheeler courses, so I appreciate that, because my certification, I'm just getting started.